here with Jason Bell. Another great Thursday night football, big playoff implications there. Chargers just find ways to win.
They do. They came through in the second half. Obviously, that obscure rule came into play with a free kick. So that turned the momentum for them. But, yeah, when you look at this team, you see their identity shift all year, who they are. They're tough. They're resilient. They got a great quarterback. Their head coach has really changed the outlook of the team. Defense is playing well. I mean, they find ways to win, and they did it on the big stage.
Yeah, and you've mentioned the head coach there. There always seemed like there were a lot of pieces in place for the Chargers. They were missing that thing to get over the line. He's obviously a good record in college, and things like that kick. He's a very clever guy. Do you think no one wants to come up against them in the postseason, do they?
They're going to be tough. I mean, they're getting better. And when you have a new staff, it's all about evolving, right? Getting used to the play calls, the play caller, how you adjust, kind of seeing the way your head coach, seeing the game the way your head coach does. And the thing about Harbaugh is they're prepared. He believes in them. They believe in him. Think about this was a good roster. I mean, they question this roster, but obviously he's turned it around with his coaching. So, yeah, they get dangerous as the year progresses because they get more familiar with each other, and that's the key.
Sure. I mean, he holds the honour of being one of the few people to be beaten in the Super Bowl by his own brother.
I know.
Awkward Christmas conversations there. Do you think he could maybe level the scores there? I mean, they could even play each other.
You never know, but in the future, I tell you, this team is going to continue to evolve and get better. They're going to be a dominant player in the AFC. This year might be hard. There's other teams, I believe, in the AFC much better than them. But you never know. The playoffs is just about getting hot. And the one thing you need to have in the playoffs, you got to have a quarterback that can win the fourth quarter with 2 minutes on the clock, and Justin Herbert can do that.
Sure. And, AFC, got to talk about the Chiefs. 13-1, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, big risk if he plays, right?
Yeah, especially against this team, the Houston Texans, who can get after him, a lot of pass rush, a lot of pressure. And that's the thing. He's had so much pressure on him this year. They got to find a way to protect him. He's got the ankle injury to worry about. But he's the key, man. He's got to be on the field because hopefully what they want is that he gets hot in the playoffs, just like last year. Because last year when they went on the Super Bowl run, he was the best player in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl. So he needs to be healthy, and they need to protect him for that to happen.
Can they win it with Carson Wentz if the worst should happen?
Can they win a game with Carson Wentz? Yes, they can win a game with Carson Wentz. No, they cannot win the game without. It's all about Patrick Mahomes. He is the key. He is the engine. He's the X factor. Every week when you're preparing for that team, it's trying to prevent Patrick Mahomes from making that clutch play.
Sure. I mean, it's hard to second guess Andy Reid. I mean, he knows what he's doing, but you're in charge. What would you be doing with Mahomes? You obviously don't have the inside info, but
you know what? You want to play. You need to get better, right? And if he can play and he can be on the field, that does a lot for your team. So put him out there. If you're going to sit him, though, this would be the week, right? They got a lot of games back-to-back. They got some rest coming up. So this would be the week to sit him to make sure he's ready and feels good for the playoffs. But, hey, if Mahomes says he wants to be out there, you're not going to put him on the sideline.
Yeah, they're paying him all that money for a reason. Other sideline, CJ Stroud, bit of a sophomore slump. Is that something? I mean, you were on the other side of the ball. Is this something first season? People haven't got that much tape on film. It's different to college. Is that what we're seeing here?
There's a lot of that, but it's about the offensive coordinator. I think they've really figured out what he does, who he is, and they're attacking the pass protection. And if, as a coordinator, you can't design that differently to confuse the defense, we have an advantage. And you're seeing that with all the pressure on C.J. Stroud. They're going to have to evolve as an offense. He's still making throws, but it's the plays. It feels like teams understand how they're being attacked. And what I call is you start playing in a phone booth. It gets really tight. Things get really condensed, and then it gets harder for the quarterback, C.J. Stroud. So the offensive coordinator is going to have to evolve, and CJ is going to have to learn from this year to how teams adjust to him, but he'll continue to get better.
Sure, I know it's a tough game for them to sort of make those adjustments now. The Chiefs, very solid defense.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. He's going to be under attack. He's going to be under assault this game, but this is where you got to get right, and hopefully they have a plan to do that.
Sure, and another team in action over the festive period quite a lot, the Steelers. Now, the NFL is a very cutthroat place.
Yeah.
Mike Tomlin, he always gets them to a winning record, and he does it when he has no right to be doing it. People didn't think this roster was a 10-4
True.
roster, but you're in the NFL to be number one. He hasn't won a Super Bowl for 15 years. Are you a little surprised maybe he's been given this much time without getting to that kind of a game?
Not at all. Not at all. Like I've I've lived my life in locker rooms. I've been around great leaders and coaches. I mean, this guy is elite. He's one of the best. He's one of the top 3, top 5. Any team, if he was to leave, would be jumping all over to get him as their head coach. It is hard to win a Super Bowl. It's difficult, but what you want as a fan is for your team to always have a chance, and that's what he provides. Eventually, he might be back there. He's already got one. The thing about it is I understand people want instant results, but he's one of the best out there.
Sure, and do you think there could be another one this season? Russell Wilson, has he got enough in there?
George Pickens has to be healthy, the wide receiver. He needs to be on the field because he's what allows them to be explosive on offense. But yes, the way they're playing, they got a quarterback with all the experience, make two, 3 throws a game, and that defense plays well, you can beat anybody.
Sure, and obviously a lot of games coming up now. What, as players, Thanksgiving, Christmas, it's, I guess as journalists as well, you're not seeing as much on holidays as other people. Is that something that sort of people in the league get annoyed about? Is it just something part of the territory,
I think it's part of the territory. I mean, it's almost a part of the festive season, so it's celebrated. When you get to play on Christmas, as a player, you know everybody's watching, which is what you want, right? You have everybody's singular focus. You want to go out there and perform well on a high level. As a kid, you watch it. So you're thinking, man, I'd love to play on Christmas. This will be so cool. So I think it's something that we embrace. Our families get around. Sometimes it gets too busy because everybody's in town and you just want to focus on the game. But ultimately, this is what it's about, and we love it.
Is it quite hard sometimes? You've got a family, especially for the players who do have kids and stuff. The kids are obviously excited. They might not understand. Is it hard to separate the two sometimes?
I think it becomes a part of your family. It really does. You just kind of work around it, and it becomes a part of your Christmas. If you're playing on Christmas Day or you're preparing for the game that week, but you got the day or afternoon off, it's just what we're used to. And, we grow up in it, and I think we enjoy it. It's not forever, right? You only play as long as you do. But while we're in it, we make it a part of what the family does.
Sure, and the NFL's massive show. There's another big show in the Olympics rolling into the States in 4 years. Flag football is a big topic. There's a few players already putting their hat in the ring. If you had to pick sort of 5 current NFL players, a quarterback, a receiver, a QB, who would you have out there for this?
Oh, man, I know people love doing this, and I think I'd have to, when I look at this team, I want somebody who can just make all the throws, and there's nobody better than Patrick Mahomes. I mean, in my opinion, the way he can manipulate his arm angles and all that, and that's great for flag football. And you got to have a quick release. Tua would be great for flag football too, but I'm going with Pat Mahomes. And then there's just so many receivers, and I'd load it up with that, and it would be speed. I would have Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and then I'd try to find, and I'm kind of working on this, a big target, a big guy. Might be a tight end, but it just might be a bigger wide receiver. So I'm still up in the air on that, but I definitely would have those people out there.
Sure. Maybe a bit of Travis Hunter in there when he joins the league.
I mean, he's got to get in the league first. But yeah, that's my defense would be completely different. I would have that schemed up. But as far as offense, man, I just load it up with wide receivers.
Sure. And we're heading into the postseason. This is the time where real locker room leaders stand up. So I was sort of thinking, back in your days, is there any sort of unsung hero? Who was doing the grunt work in the locker room, might not really have been seen by the fans, by the media. Is there anyone that sticks out that you played with?
When I think about it, I think about the staff. Whether it's your locker room staff, your trainers. Like, if you think about it, all the hours they have to put in around the season, and especially in that moment, in that time, they got families too, and you would see all those people working so hard. And that's why at the end of the year, you win a Super Bowl, they all get rings because it was them in the background and everything they did, the equipment guys, all the sacrifice they make so we can get on the field. So I always think, when I think of unsung heroes, it's all the people in the background that give us what we need to get on the field and be prepared.
Sure. We'll just finish on one final one. Not to make you sound too old, but a few years since you stopped playing.
Yep, it has been a few years, just a few.
Just a few, a couple. But it's the age-old debate then versus now. It happens in every sport.
Yeah, of course.
And people want the big hits and the concussion rules come in. The NFL's trying to protect players.
You should.
What do you think? Do you think the game's a better product now? Do you prefer it back in the day? People getting smashed.
I think it's different. It's all about protecting players. I'm a former player. I want to be protected. I don't want any harm to my brethren, the people that I've sweat with and sacrificed. So all about protecting players. I will say this. The receivers are so much, I feel like everybody's so good, quick, fast. And I think it's because everybody has access to the same training. The big guys have kind of gotten more athletic on the edges because the way the game's played. But I just think it's faster and more explosive. But yet when I play, there's guys that I look at that people don't even talk about their names. I remember somebody talking about Jimmy Smith the other day. He was a receiver for Jacksonville Jaguars. He's one of the best players I've ever seen in my life. Marvin Harrison Sr. I mean, these guys could play in any era. Randy Moss. So that always exists. But I do think players are getting better because we have more access to tools. And the game continues to evolve. All these quarterbacks are so good because they grow up playing 7-on-7, flag football. They get the ball out quicker. I think that you won't see errors where you have, the Tom Brady's. That might not ever happen again. I grew up a Joe Montana fan, So every era has its excellence, but right now, I love the game. I love what it is.
Do you think it's harder to dominate these days? Everyone's level is so high.
I think it's always been hard to dominate in the NFL because it is a game and a business that breaks down excellence. If you are great, everything and every rule is set up to make it harder for you. You have to pay players, can't pay everybody. You get lower draft picks. The other teams are getting better because they get higher picks. So that's the parity that the league always has allowed to develop, which makes it hard to sustain excellence and greatness. That's why what we're looking at with Patrick Mahomes, we're like, wow, can he pull this off? Three-peat, never hasn't happened. When you look at what Tom Brady has done in and out and all those Super Bowls, how hard it is because those teams were always getting tore down and they had to build themselves back up.